Tokelahoma veterans. You served your country honorably once while you wore the cloth of our nation. We are asking you to wear it again proudly as a member of the American Legion of Oklahoma. The American Legion is part of the nation's largest and most influential network of veterans, families, and communities, from budget hearings to baseball diamonds, from combat outposts to children's hospitals. Together, we make a difference. The American Legion provides life-changing assistance and guidance for veterans, military personnel, their families, and communities in thousands of ways each and every day around the world. Help comes in the form of personal assistance, cash grants, donated goods, disaster relief, labor, networking, volunteerism, and advocacy. The American Legion is for God and country, but the American Legion is also for you. Please contact a local post today.
Hey, Tokelahoma, this is Tracy.
And Larry Reed, the man on weed. And we are blessed to have a wonderful guest with us here today. It's Adelaide from Beautiful Morning Tea.
Right, actually Lemonade is our name of our business, but we make the Beautiful Morning Tea, and this has some herbs in it that help with your skin, hair, and nails, as well as a little bit of caffeine to keep you going in the morning. So I do my extractions for the teas with the full spectrum flower. We have I call it cold fusion actually. It's a process that we do decarb the weed, but once it's decarboxylated, the THC, we leave it alone. We keep it cool the whole time. We don't heat it up again, and it's just delicious. You guys can try it. We've got locations throughout the metro. They're listed on our website, 118ok.com. So yeah, I hope you guys check it out.
And they're Joe's herb cabinet, right?
Yeah, Joe's has it. You're making me want to say Joe.
I don't know. I feel great right now. But I'm so glad you're here. She was in here last week for Wake and Bake show, and now she's coming on our show because she's awesome. So.
That's awesome.
Thanks
Well, it's a beautiful brand. Tell us a little bit about the 11-8 brand.
Okay, so Lemonade was developed, my partners and I, we came up with the name. We were thinking levity, something to raise you up. When you leaven bread, it gets taller, so that's where the name comes from. And we are all about doing looking at research to see what is actually recommended through science to medicate you, and what we found is that lower doses, edibles, are going to be the most efficacious without causing harmful effects. So we make cookies, we make tea, we're expanding into like creamers and things like that too.
For coffee?
Yeah.
Tell us, the maybe our listening, watching audience might not know what the effication might mean. Tell us what that
efficacious?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So
educate us.
Looking at two different things. So I think about what did we do in the past before Prohibition, 1860 to 1930, when people were prescribing cannabis regularly for all sorts of uses. Looking at that and then comparing it to what has actually been studied in our small body of research. We have a lot of research actually out of Israel by Dr. Meshulam, which I think is a great name. But Dr. Meshulam has been studying cannabis since the 1960s, and he has a lot of good findings. A little bit too much on the leaning towards okay, we found this compound, let's make a pharmaceutical type of guy. So I'm not into that side of it. I think really you can get the most benefit from using the whole plant. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's what I mean by efficacious. So comparing what they used in the past to what is coming out to actually have evidence to work and help, and then combining it into products.
Okay, and so is health your background, or because you sound like you know what you're talking about? You don't sound like you're just.
Don't sound like a regular Tokelahoma visitor.
Yeah, definitely. You don't sound like a stoner off the street. So.
Well, I am a dietitian. I practice jujitsu with my husband as well, and. So as a dietitian, you have to go through extensive schooling. You have to go to college, and then you have to go to work in a hospital for 1,600 hours, and then you have to take a very extensive test that you have to know all about can sizes and scoop sizes and things like that.
So
awesome. You really learn about how food affects the body, and it gave me a lot of respect for, you can't just put anything in your body and expect good outcomes. You need to have some
good vibes only.
Yeah,
food, but that's right, because food. So, I've been a mom for almost 10 years. My son's going to be 10 this month, and it was still controversial to breastfeed at that time. And so I would just be like, dude, you guys drink freaking cow's titty and you're complaining about breastfeeding, but sometimes you have to be that drastic with what you say because then they're like, oh yeah, ew, why am I drinking cow's milk? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But again, formula was pushed on to mothers in society, right? The government pushed it out, the media pushed it out.
Mm-hmm. And then you make the formula with the fluoridated water.
Right. And so, yeah, but to see how it's changed in 10 years, it's almost more normal to breastfeed now. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. It's definitely recommended to breastfeed.
Yes. Because it's healthier for the body.
And, and for the baby, it's healthier for the moms, too.
Yes.
Everything.
Absolutely.
It's amazing how the whole system works if we let it work.
Yes.
The way it was designed to work. It's with the when you say the dietitian, the Greek word for diet is way of life. That's what diet means in Greek. And so it's not only that mind, body, and spirit, which the beautiful morning tea kind of encapsulates that. It's got the mind and the body, and then the spirit. What does the Leavenate logo mean? I think somehow that's got to add into the spirit part, right?
I like it.
Let's see, where's the camera?
Right here?
There. Okay.
There you go.
There it is. So, right, we have the L in a circle with the yin-yang colors. And I was going for it to look like a yin-yang because a yin-yang represents balance. Like we have the yin, the cool, wet, dark, and then we have the yang, which is the bright, hot, and light. And I think that there's truth to that at every level in our universe. You know, you have two things and they go together and you need both.
I agree with that completely.
But yeah, my experience with being a dietitian has given me the skill of being able to read data and interpret studies. And so I think that that's kind of what I bring to the industry that's different than what I see typically. Like there's not a lot of, bringing in, like integrating knowledge and integrating evidence into the products that they produce. I think there's kind of a gap for that. So
these gummies are on sale.
Well, not only that, it's pretty evident in your products that you're using full spectrum rather than you certainly could get a distillate for cheaper, more
so
available.
Much easier.
And so, do you create the own flour yourself, or
no? We have a friend that grows it out in Purcell, the Sublime Forge. So.
Shout out to the Sublime Forge out there for.
Yes.
Making some awesome medicine.
So we use their flour and we do like I said, I'm a little scientific, so I buy these, I've got the very specific ovens for my flour. So I put the flour in, I know for a fact that it's gone through its full heat cycle, the whole heat curve has happened, not too much, not too little, to make our THC decarboxylated.
Homemade, I like it.
But then when we use the whole flour, we keep the flour in there, so I'm getting CBG in my test results, getting all the other good stuff, not just THC. And I think that that's kind of the big difference. I think that distillate has a certain flavor to it that I don't prefer.
A certain nasty flavor to it, yes. If you like tin cans, then get yourself some distillate.
Yeah, but it's just like kind of pharmaceuticalizing this plant that I also disagree with that.
Yes.
It's the... If I gave you a vitamin C tablet and a whole orange, which one would you go for? It's that kind of mentality.
It just depends on the day, right?
I probably eat the orange most of the time, and
Me
then
too.
vitamin C.
Yeah, but like the thing is with these other compounds that are within the plant, they help make the THC work better. So they have things that go to your receptors, your CB1, your CB2 receptors, and actually help open them up. So your THC can bind to them better, and so it works in synergy. It doesn't just work on its own.
Awesome. And are you going to show us one of your bags?
Sure.
Which is something, here's a Tokelahoma tip for you, that if you're used to eating that distillate, and maybe you've got yourself 500 milligrams of distillate inside your human being, get yourself some beautiful morning tea and have a cup of tea, and you will be turbocharged. Because what Adelaide is saying is that with everything else, it makes that THC react a lot stronger when it's
and tea's cool,
in the
guys.
full
Something else
entourage.
about this too.
We're actually going to take a
thank
break.
you
Yep.
And then we'll talk more. Okay?
We'll come right in at that point.
Yes.
Okay, I was just going to say it's water soluble, so it's not like...
That's all right. We'll keep them guessing. Keeps them out longer.
Oklahoma veterans. You served your country honorably once while you wore the cloth of our nation. We are asking you to wear it again proudly as a member of the American Legion of Oklahoma. The American Legion is part of the nation's largest and most influential network of veterans, families, and communities, from budget hearings to baseball diamonds, from combat outposts to children's hospitals. Together, we make a difference. The American Legion provides life-changing assistance and guidance for veterans, military personnel, their families, and communities in thousands of ways each and every day around the world. Help comes in the form of personal assistance, cash grants, donated goods, disaster relief, labor, networking, volunteerism, and advocacy. The American Legion is for God and country, but the American Legion is also for you. Please contact a local post today.
All right, we're back. All right, so what we're going to say?
Right. I was just talking about how we all know that THC is not water soluble. And if it was just in a tea bag, it wouldn't come out. Like if you put flour in a teacup, it's not going to go anywhere. You're not going to get high from that. So what I've done is actually extract it into a dissolvable matrix. It's a low glycemic sugar option. And so it does contain 20 calories, 4 grams of sugar per bag, but it's not going to affect your blood sugar the way white sugar would, if that's a concern that you have. But yeah, it's not nanotechnology, because that's just grinding down the plant really.
Yeah, I didn't. Well, it's certainly your expertise in dietary knowledge has certainly helped us out because of the products that you're bringing into the space for somebody. And so, how much milligrams is in each tea bag?
So we do 10 milligrams in the tea bag.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And like grandma or grandpa would do this.
I love it. My target market is actually people who are a little older and not wanting to have that, or professionals that just don't want to be altered to where they can't do their work throughout the day. I've just experienced that I like to be able to use my brain to its fullest capacity while also being, having the feel-good effects from having cannabis in my system.
And your tea does that.
My tea does that. Yes, it does. Yes, and I had something else to say about that, but I might come back to it.
So how about the granny's not going to be able to handle that first 10 milligram uptake, right? Maybe you want to give her, is there a way to, so it's supposed to be 8 ounces. If you go 16 ounces, you're basically cutting the dosage in half for granny, or how does that?
Yeah, she could just put it in the fridge and drink the rest of it later, or share it with somebody else. But yeah, it dissolves right away in your teacup, so it's not something that you have to wait for, or steep for 20 minutes or anything like that.
Okay.
But, yeah, so you could,
I like it.
and I would like to make them at a lower dose, and I just think that it's a little bit difficult, economically, the way that we test. We have to test based on weight. Okay. So 10 milligrams is kind of my
yeah, that's rough on that weight side. I think they changed that rule, though. Didn't one of the pieces of legislation gone through? We'll have to check on that for next week. It was shot down. Was that 3288? Right. It was a bigger test batch, and because
it was 1,000 grams, which would be 1,000,000 milligrams, and I was like, 1,000,000 milligrams, so excited. But no, sadly, it did not pass. But
we're going to keep working on that.
Let's look into that.
Testing
because that's logical, and that's one of the other things that we had a little bit of discussion before the lights, camera, and the action came on. Is your product is so unique and genuine and therapeutic, and not 10 milligrams, like you say, it's not really going to do anything.
That reminded me.
Is to that perhaps maybe it should just be not so regulated. Like that THC in there, your design, just from speaking with you, is not really get high, is get therapeutic. And so, what do you think about that, of it going to a rec side? Who is that? Is that me? That's me.
You and your 2 phones.
What do I think about that going to a rec side? I'm going to put about that and come back to it in just a minute.
Okay.
But what I wanted to say about the 10 milligrams THC, when you're getting that from a distillate perspective, you're just getting 10 milligrams, that's it, THC, you're good to go. When you're getting it from a full spectrum, you're getting THC, along with all of its friends, your entourage effect, you hear that's like a buzzword, entourage effect.
Yeah.
But
I
what
like
that
it.
means is like your THC friends, you can think of it like they hype up the THC to actually get into your CB1 receptors, get into your CB2. When you're eating edibles, you kind of focus more on the CB2 receptors. Just really briefly before I get into your question,
please, yes.
is that like, so your CB1 are in your brain and your spinal column, and those make you feel high, make you feel more altered. The ones in your CB2 system, those are more in your gut, in your immune system, throughout your body, and those have all those good effects of not necessarily making you feel high, but making you feel good to where you have a better mood, and I feel like that is kind of more what I'm going for, and than feeling like so high that I can't really recall what I was talking about.
Right. And so have you looked into Delta 8? Is that something that you're starting to, because that, what you described is a lot of the way I hear Delta 8 described.
Yeah, so I don't have a lot of like, I don't have like a chemistry set up to like get the whole, oh, is this Delta 8, is this Delta 9, but it's just an isomer, like it's just THC looking at itself in the mirror, basically. So I think then we made it not like it's illegal now or something like that.
To get to it, you have to do a process that's illegal to do that process, but Delta 8 is not essentially illegal, but getting to it is illegal, which is so silly. It's
government regulations.
I was
are
more
silly.
like a kitchen witch. Like I'd rather get in the kitchen and like do what I can, bringing the plant into products to eat. And so it's not necessarily, I'm not like looking at the chemistry of like, oh, is this Delta 8 or is this Delta 9 or is this Delta 10 or what are we doing
What's
here?
next,
Like, this, I mean, I'd love to have a white coat and I'd love to have a 20 or like, $1 million lab, but I don't have that right now. So I'm making it this way.
That's awesome.
But yeah, as more research comes out, I'd like to learn more about that.
There you go. So don't forget to go over to your website, which is 118. Put that up there on that. I don't reach across. The 118, is it okay.com?
118ok.com.
118ok.com.
Yes.
You can find you on Weed Maps and Linkly and all that.
She's on
We're on
IG too.
Instagram, yeah.
Instafo Shizzle.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. And then we can find it right through there. We can message you and find out where we can get our beautiful morning tea.
Yes, and
And
we have
are you-
Slumbersome too.
Are you looking to
Yeah.
put them in dispensaries and stuff? Or
Yeah,
what?
we're in 3 dispensaries so far. We're getting into more throughout the city, and if you're interested in sampling our products, I can send our guys out and bring you some products and give you some more information.
Awesome. Cool.
That is awesome. And so do you have beautiful morning tea? Do you have like afternoon speed demon? Yeah.
I have Slumbersome tea, which
Slumbersome
is so
tea,
good.
yes.
It's got chamomile, lavender, it's got valerian root,
Bam!
rooibos tea. It's so delicious, and it also has 10 milligrams of, and the flower I use is actually a hybrid. It doesn't really lean one way or the other, so it is excellent. I can't really keep my eyes open after like maybe half a chapter. I'm like going to sleep after reading that. So
See again, we are so glad the weeders to have a weeder like you out there, because you're going to get one constant effect from THC. But it's the other stuff that you're adding in there that complements that that charges it up. Because a guy like me, I get some THC and it works for everything, I'm good.
Right.
But this is really something that is welcomed in my space for sure, because it's different stuff. And like you said, with that full spectrum, again, if you're a distillate eater, get some beautiful morning tea, eat your distillate, and then have a cup of this, and you will be, because you're energizing the CB1, CB2,
And hydrating.
Yes. And that distillate is just waiting there like nitrous oxide in a race car, just waiting to be activated, because you pass mostly on, right? It goes through you. You don't really absorb. If you eat 100 milligrams, you don't really absorb 100 milligrams, right?
Like an epidemic of dogs getting sick from eating feces. And
Yeah.
Let's go, my sister's dog.
All right,
Wow.
and we're gonna take
And
a
there you have it. We'll be back with more high on dogs feces, right?
Hempire Genetics is a advanced research program set forth under the 2018 Oklahoma Industrial Hemp Pilot Program, overseen by Northwestern Oklahoma State University. A lot of farmers reach out to us. They've heard about what we're doing and are interested and want to know what they've had growing on their land since they were kids. Oklahoma is very diverse in its weather system, and so these plants have adapted over the last several hundred years to withstand that. A lot of it was brought here by the U.S. Department of the Interior back as part of Hemp for Victory. Hemp for Victory was brought about with the loom of the coming World War. We knew that we were going to have to produce a very large amount of hemp to rig the ships for their sailing, for their ropes, for their anchors, also clothing, sailors' hats, our flags. Everything was made from hemp. Marijuana wasn't made illegal until 1969. The USCSA classed marijuana in with other dangerous narcotics such as heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamines. The campaign to slander cannabis began back in the 20s, mainly with William Randolph Hearst and the paper mills. Then that transgressed into big oil. Later in the 30s and 40s, really gained steam. By late 1937, the Congress passed the Marijuana Tax Act, which grouped industrial hemp in with marijuana. After that, they gave the differentiated names, hemp, marijuana. While farmers were still allowed to grow, taxes were raised so heavily that it made it difficult, especially for lower income farmers. In 1940, when Hemp for Victory came to Oklahoma, they actually used Oklahoma as a test plot. Several genetics were shipped in from all around the world to see what would grow best on American soil, since Oklahoma has such a diverse climate. And it's very hard to find a lot of documentation on that. We know there was a lot of places, obviously, that were involved, or we wouldn't be finding cannabis in every county in Oklahoma. Hempire Genetics, sowing the seeds of the past to grow a better future for everyone. Visit us at HempireGenetics.com or on our social media pages at Hempire Genetics.
Hey, Tokelahoma, we're back.
There we go. Larry Reed, the man on weed, and we're back with Adelaide from 118ok.com. Make sure you go over there and visit the site. And so one of the things in our pre-discussion, you're helping break the stigma for everybody because you're very athletic. Tell us a little bit more about you're not me. I didn't exercise this morning, yesterday, maybe not this month. But I'm getting there. I've been practicing. I got a pinched nerve or whatever. But the stoner mentality, the people that think about stoners, you're helping to change that. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, absolutely. I think that that kind of turns some people off that would really benefit from using weed, at least like a little bit. If people see just too much of the stoner culture, they're like, well, I don't want to partake in that, so I'll just not do it at all. And I think the generation maybe older too are thinking that this is like so bad, like the DARE generation, like
they're out of touch.
Don't touch it ever. And I think that if we brought back more in of the Queen Victoria used it every month and things like that, then people are more likely to want to try weed. And I'm trying to broaden the base of people who are accepting weed. I think everybody loves to drink a cup of tea, and it's a kind of an elegant experience. And so
and you said you're making creamers. So a lot of people like to drink coffee too.
Yeah.
What's that emulsifier that you've got? You're a dietitian, so you know what's going to get into people and be actually active to them, so they have the effect where you don't need 1,000 milligrams to get where you need to go. Is you can use a much less dosage in that full spectrum with the accompanying different herbs and stuff like that.
Right. I think that's that's kind of what we have going on now. Is that there's a lot of high dose products out there, and there's not a lot of information about the adverse effects that can happen from taking too much weed. We have some people coming in and saying like, okay, this happened to me, this is a real thing, and you still have a lot of people saying, no, you just you're whatever.
You're just wimpy, man. You just can't handle it. You're lightweight.
There's nothing wrong with it ever. And I'm just trying to say, like, there is something that you can look out for, and so I'm trying to bring that conversation.
Right.
I think there's like one conversation that happens to get it legal, and then there's another conversation that needs to happen after it's legal, like what they're trying to do in Colorado. They're trying to make it to where you have to separate dabs into a 0.1 gram.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous, right? But they're doing it because people are getting hurt. People are hurting themselves.
I think it's more on the tax revenue. It's got more to go on that stuff. But that's in their state. We're going to take care of it better in our state.
Yes.
But it's your athleticism that I wanted to talk about a little bit, because that's
so
a lot of you, right?
I'm a jiu-jitsu athlete. Yeah, I'm a purple belt. And as that, you get choked and you get just like you get beaten up all the time. So I have to do things to like rehab, like yoga and swimming and lifting weights to make sure my joints stay tight enough to where they can't get like locked out and hurt. So I do things like that. And what we were talking about, like with CBD, like how CBD is really medicinal. Right. I find that I actually have more of an enjoyable time when I smoke a CBD or 1-to-1 flower, because I get relief from all those like chronic pain and injury spots that I'm like, I don't have pain. I actually feel great. Whereas if I smoke too much THC, I can get a little paranoid, get a little bit in my head.
The phone ringing, that kind of stuff.
Active, right? So people who aren't active, they're like, oh, I don't like CBD, it doesn't work for me. Well, you're not working your body, so it can't work for you, right?
Well, yeah, if you're just looking for that like high, to feel super high, then you're not going to get that from CBD. No, you're right.
See, for me, it's pain. Like it's like a body buzz. I'm like, okay, I can go work out today.
But yeah, like people who are active, like we realize that you feel better and you do better when you make better choices. Like if you go to sleep and get a little bit more sleep, if you don't have another beer, or if you eat, like don't eat the Twinkie, eat the salad, like that sort of stuff, you have like better effects when you're lifting weights or when you're trying to train or on the field or whatever it is that you do, so you're not thinking. And also I don't want to lose like lung function and smoke too much to where I'm like I'm not able to finish my matches. So I don't know. I think there's like good and bad.
Well, we're going to have to get into that, because there's not really that. It's a bronchial dilator, so it actually help you.
Yeah, it's a bronchial dilater. It is a bronchial dilator, but if you're taking in like oil, like if you're dabbing,
that's your
body, your lungs can't.
We are the guinea pigs of what dabbing will do to you in the future.
Right, and it's what is true is that your macrophages in your lungs cannot remove oil. They can remove micrograms of oil when you're smoking flower, which is fine. But if you're dabbing grams and grams a day, then your lungs can't remove that, and you get something called E-valley, which is they have to actually like rinse your lungs out really roughly with water. So. Wow. And also cobalt lung.
Educate us, girl.
And there's a bunch of other stuff that if you're a scuba diver, it's one of the things they talk about heavily is when you fill your tanks, make sure there's no oil inside your tanks, because it will give you certain types of emphysema also. Yeah. So, but there hasn't been a lot of research on what we are actually doing to ourselves and our lung capacity. There's a lot of athletes that dab and smoke weed, and we really don't know, and so I think we should dab and smoke heavily and see what happens in the future.
If you want to do it,
if your main argument is that it's never happened to me, it's not going to happen, it's never happened to my friends, I don't think it's a thing. I think that's there's some more thought to be done if that's what you think. But one more thing about your lungs, with the cheap cartridges, cartridges that you can get for $20, they typically, like the solder in them will have heavy metals. So when we're testing our flowers for heavy metal, you're not actually seeing what you will inhale if you are taking it in a cartridge that has like a soldering that's aluminum, or cobalt or stuff like that.
I like
Adelaide,
it.
Your intelligence is wonderful.
And the grassroots, and
thank you. I'm glad you guys are enjoying
it. Because there's a lot of things.
I'm drinking my plastic straw though. Yeah. I'm not giving it up. I'm not. I'm just
saying. Nobody's trying to take your plastic straw, JC.
Well, it's been super awesome.
It has. And let's talk about my shirt real quick. So Tents and Bridges shirts. Toki Tees did them for us. And Redbird sponsored them. So thank you. Breadman, we appreciate
Tell
you.
us a little bit more about Tents and Bridges Society.
All right,
Yes,
so
exactly.
it's the cannabis community supporting the homeless community, and then we're gonna attack the homeless military or veteran community. And so
We're gonna help
for
them,
Green
we're not
Grow,
gonna attack them.
With love. With
love. So Green
We're
Grow
gonna attack them with
Fest.
marshmallow guns and feather pillows.
We have sponsors. You can sponsor tents, use them for an event, and then we donate them to homeless military veterans. So it's just giving
Don't
back
forget
to the
July
community.
17th, Walk for Cannabis Awareness
Yes.
that we're going to do. We're going to start out. Adelaide's going to come out with us. We're going to walk
Yeah.
from the
Are you coming
Ferris
out?
wheel.
You
Sure,
should.
she is. She's the Ferris wheel to Relax Park. And she's going to share all of her beautiful Lemonade knowledge and all that kind of good stuff out there. It's going to be a fantastic time.
It is.
And that's about all the time we have
Yes.
today.
Well,
Thank
thank
you
you
for
guys
coming in.
again. I really appreciated the opportunity to talk about all this nerd stuff.
Yeah, it's awesome.
We like nerds.
And don't forget to tune in for your more nerd stuff next week on Tokelahoma. For Tracy Diane, Adelaide from lemonadeok.com. I'm Larry, the man on weed, and we are out of here. Thanks for watching Tokelahoma. We'll see you next week.